When you witness our people that in fact introduced writing, science, mathematics, and philosophy to the world, that built all the pyramids of Africa's ancient Egypt and Nubia, and that are also hiddenly responsible for most inventions that have revolutionized the world, now reduced to self-identifying ourselves by the N-words, sagging and glorifying pimps, it's because our enemies writes our narratives and controls our media images. This is not scapegoating. It's the absolute truth. A group's identity is shaped by the narrative they're taught about themselves and by how they see themselves repeatedly depicted within the media. A group's collective behaviors aligns with the narrative they've accepted as being their truths, and they imitate those media depictions of their group that they've accepted as being their reality. Once the people have been enslaved and stripped of their true identity, culture, and history, those who writes their narratives and controls their media images can make them into whatever they want them to become. Because white oppressive forces writes our narratives and controls our media images, they falsely negatively distorted and marginalized them in order to condition us to perceive ourselves through a false inherent inferior identity that aids them in maintaining their social capital and social dominance over our lives. They've literally conditioned millions of us to perceive ourselves as being inherently subordinate to whites. Therefore, many of us constantly seeks their approval. White social engineering scientists describe this insidious process as merely instilling a value system into the collective minds of the Black masses that makes us adhere to the authority and existing infrastructure of the white dominant culture. It's the true mental enslaving system that most Black people are always talking about, but most don't understand. In addition to conditioning millions of us to perceive ourselves through a false inherent inferior identity that aids them in maintaining their dominance over us, they also indoctrinated many mental enslaving lies into our minds. If people are born ignorant, to parents that are ignorant, and a society that is ignorant lives a life of ignorance, then ignorance becomes the norm. Thus, indoctrination can be called education. Tyrants can be called heroes. A false God can be called the only true God. And all lies can be called truths. Because these people were never taught the truth, their minds are therefore not their own. Their minds are owned by those that have indoctrinated the mental enslaving lies into their minds. Once a people have been enslaved and stripped of their true history and culture and knowledge of themselves, those who did it to them always indoctrinates mental enslaving lies into their minds. It's how those empires that have been brutally oppressive protects themselves from massive unified retribution from those they brutally oppressed. This is the hidden reality of what has been done to Black people by the white society. Our core problem as Black people is that most of us cannot see that our minds have been manipulated to think in ways that serves and protects the interests of the white society. Most of us have normalized our brainwashed mindset and therefore fight against those of us who try to free our minds. Those Black people who do not critically think never notices their mental change. All of those other ideologies that they spread in our community are lies that are designed to distract us from this truth. This is the one and only truth of our plight and condition. We must learn this truth. Those of us who know must teach African proverb.